Hello, my Mesopotamian friends that Chris has been pissing off, and hello, ℍ𝕠𝕝𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣 Witchcraft fans. Chris, look, it says ℍ𝕠𝕝𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣𝕣 Witchcraft, so I remember what podcast this is, so I can read it now, just
Oh,
in case
okay.
I say the wrong thing, innit?
Well, you are a bit forgetful these days.
Well, saying the wrong thing has got me into a lot of trouble in the past, Chris. I know it may be difficult for you to believe that, but it is true.
Wow. I can't possibly believe that, Liam. Why would I believe such a thing?
Well, we have a request, because some people like to make requests for topics of conversation. Other people just think they come up with a good snazzy title and think, what the hell are they going to do with that? I think the latter is probably what was going through this person's mind. So this is by the Astral Prophet, Chris.
Okay.
The Astral Prophet has said that they want a podcast episode entitled Litterbox Epiphanies, right? Now, there's two apparent definitions to epiphany. One is the manifestation of Christ to the Gentiles. The second is probably what most people think of it, a manifestation of divine or supernatural being. Okay, it kind of goes with the first one. Most people, I think, when they say an epiphany, that's what you said, wasn't it? A
Eureka.
sudden and great revelation or realization.
Eureka.
Right? So I suppose we've got to talk about all of these things. We've got to talk about Gentiles, or as I always read it, genitals. Christ genitals.
That doesn't surprise me.
Ring looks at the manifestation of Christ to the Gentiles, and I just think Christ genitals in a sentence, you know? That's just where my mind goes, isn't it? Right? So we got to talk about Christ's genitals by the looks of it. We also need to talk about manifestation of a divine or supernatural being. So that's a full-fledged manifestation. And then also epiphanies and such. Now they've called it litterbox epiphanies. Now a litterbox is a little box that animals, mainly cats, go shit in, right? People that have cats as pets, they may have a litter box, right? So a litter box epiphany must have something to do with rather shit realizations. So shit epiphanies.
I don't know, because some people have great ideas when they're sat on the loo, or at least that's
Oh
what
well, we can talk about that.
they say. Is they often say they've had, I was digesting, breakfast, and also digesting a good idea. Because some people like time to think when they're on the loo. I just want to get out of there and go somewhere else and do something else. I find it a real inconvenience having bowels.
You find an inconvenience having bowels. Right. Thanks for sharing that.
Do you know what I mean? I just find it really inconvenient having to find time to.
How often do you go in a day?
Make movements. Not that often. Not as often as I probably should.
You're making it sound like you've got an issue, both by saying that you know that it's a big problem, that clearly it takes up so much of your day going and doing a dump or something. But the second is like, I don't go as often as I should. That also makes me wonder for your general health, Chris. Is everything
obviously,
okay?
Everything's okay as it can be.
Right. Okay.
Well, I had that scare earlier in the year, but let's not talk about that.
Well, you're the one that brought it up.
So, but my point is, lots of people say that it's good thinking time. Like I've had many an ex who, the only time I would get text messages was when they were sat taking a dump when they should have been working.
I'm sure there's a joke about like attracting like and all that sort of thing in there, but I wouldn't make such a comment.
Fucking rude.
I have more respect for you than to
Lies.
compare you to a shit.
Lies. Anyway, my point was, good ideas. When do you get your best ideas, Liam?
I get my best ideas normally when I really wanna fuck someone up, right? That's when I get
Oh,
my
okay.
best. Because if someone sparked my interest enough to make that part of my brain go, that's the creative type. You see, because I think I'm normally fairly robotic and clinical, but on the odd occasion
Really?
where yes, really beep. On the odd occasion where my creativity, my Venusian side, you know, flutters in, is normally because I feel creative. And what gets me going, what gets my creative juices flowing? Revenge, normally.
Oh, okay.
That's what gets me going. Revenge. Creative ideas that have to be stacked upon each other because I don't know. It's like the sort of thing where I think, well, obviously one of the ideas has to eventually do them in, but I feel a little bit cheated, right? This whole idea, like in, I think it was, you saw this in Supernatural, right? That TV series where they send people to hell and they mutilate them and torture them, and then at the end of the day, everything grows back. Yeah.
Yeah, so they can do it again the next
Very
day.
much me. I feel that way. I feel like if it's the perfect revenge, it takes too long to plan the perfect thing, right? Because I'd have to put a lot of effort into thinking what's the worst possible thing that can happen to this person. That does create a lot of effort, and I'll never be fully decided upon that. Therefore, what I feel is I need to, switch into different modes. Creativity. Liam gives, and then Liam takes away, and then Liam gives and replaces with something rather nastier than what you had before. So the first torture that you were crying about, by the time the second torture comes round, you're begging me to give you the first torture again. You see? I love that. I think that is an art form because people don't like torture as a general rule. I know there are some sickos out there. But people don't like torture as a general rule. So when people are begging you to torture them in a different way, particularly in a way that they were crying about earlier on in the evening, I find that is, you're in the right area, Chris. You're putting pressure in the right
Okay.
place. Because they go, I can't take any more of this, cry, weep, beg, beg, beg. But then you mix it up and give them something else. And then they're suddenly begging for that thing that they could not think of anything worse than before, right? And for me, creative. You have to continue. You have to. It's much like at the gym. At the gym, you are not in competition with everyone else. A lot of people think you are. You're in competition with yourself, right? And I'm in competition with myself if I were to be torturing people, because it's like I need to upstage myself, and after the centuries passed, yes, do technologies and experiences and stuff take hold? I mean, this kind of social media thing is fascinating nowadays. That's brought in all sorts of ways in which people can feel bad and suffer that I never thought of before. I'm having wonderful fun with that. But yeah, that's my creative side anyway, Chris. Like Picasso with a razor, as they described in Supernatural. It was Alistair, wasn't it? One of my favorite characters.
See, for me, obviously it's the opposite, which is I'm always creative. So quieting my mind in order to do something mercurial is normally where I have to go and have a brilliant idea. So because naturally my brain is going all the time creatively, and that's not often helpful. Because it means there's all this constant onslaught of, oh, I can fix that if I did, or that doesn't belong there. Let's change that. Or that gap's empty. Let's fill it with something. So I suppose my kind of zoning time is normally a way in which to, as quiet as possible, my brain. And then that is when the ordering happens, when the lists happen, and the other ways of structuring everything. because to me everything has to fit in, but it can be organic. But obviously, it's always got this beautiful little trellis for the vines to grow up and blossom. So I do every now and again have to force myself to go, if I don't put order to this chaos very quickly, it's just going to stay, rolling and rolling until it's snowballed into something completely different.
So have you had any Litterbox Epiphanies, i.e. great manifestations either of Jesus or of ideas and such, whilst you have been on the human litter box known as the toilet? Have you stretched out any great ideas?
I have done occasionally, but normally it's not my own toilet at home.
Oh, you like to crap in other people's toilets?
No,
There's
don't.
a lot of people that won't do that,
I really don't, Liam. I have a real problem with public toilets. But
what about people's private toilets in their private houses? Are you okay?
No, definitely not.
No?
Definitely not.
Do you think it's unacceptable? I had this conversation with two ladies the other day. Do you think it's unacceptable to go to the toilet in someone else's toilet, number 2? That's the one that makes the splash, people.
I find it rude.
You think it's rude to use someone else's toilet?
Yeah, well, anything that might cause a scent, because that is proper fouling somebody else's place.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that, dominating someone else's private abode.
No.
You like doing it with auras, why not houses?
No, I don't. I really don't. I have a proper issue with it. It takes me a really long time to feel comfortable doing a number 2 anywhere, which is probably why I have problems with my bowels, Liam. It's because I'm so restrained.
Right. Okay. You're fully backed up. Like
Often.
The M4 at rush hour. For our American friend, M4 is a motorway. Motorway number 4.
But no, that's not one of the best places for me to have good ideas. I think you'll find it unsurprising, to say the least, that I like a walk. Right.
So because we are oversharing, right, I'm not one of those people that if I'm sat on the toilet, that I have a lot of stuff going through my mind in terms of great ideas and that. Do you know what's honestly on my mind when I'm on the toilet, right?
What?
The spirits can see me. I am literally, when I am on the toilet, that is the only time I ever do warding and such. No, honestly, this is the honest truth now. And I blame my childhood because, of course, amateur psychologists will always tell you everything goes back to your childhood, where we were always told Jesus is watching you all the time. And I used to, when I was sat on the toilet as a child, Jesus
Freud
is
would say
a
lot about that.
And it used to really freak me out. And then as I got older and I worked with the areas of spirits and that, I started to realize that, yes, on a multi-dimensional level, there are things that watch you when you do toilet. And I don't really like that. I feel somewhat vulnerable when I'm sat on the toilet, if I'm honest. And although I don't think that it's a very good idea for a black magician out there to try and do spell work on me when I'm on the toilet, because at the end of the day, that's probably when I'm most protected, because it's when I'm actively deflecting. But yeah, I wonder, is that just a me thing, or are you the thing?
No, not the same at all. But you know very well that most of my, spirit manifestation times is during shower time anyway. So when I have my most conversations, when I open for conversations, is normally while I'm naked. So I don't really have a problem with that at all. It's only flesh at the end of the day.
Because I used to have this thing, right? And it was like, you watch these television shows, don't you, and films and stuff like that, whereas normally to do with going backwards and forwards in time, the future, where you go and meet yourself and you manifest in front of yourself in the future or in the past, or Harry Potter, they tried to track someone down, or Charmed, they track someone down and they orb in, which is basically like apparition. They go poof, or jingle jingle, and they just kind of appear there. And I always used to freak out and think, if any time any spirit's going to start manifesting when I don't want to do it, it's going to be when I'm sat on the toilet. I bet it is. That's just the sort of life I lead. So yeah, I've always actively warded. So there we go. There's a nice little thing to shower. I wonder if the comments will reveal anyone else that does that, or whether I'm just going to be some sort of freak now that people aren't going to leave that alone. But,
well, you are a freak, a robot freak from the future. But no. Talking about actively warding, the only time I really actively ward is when I'm about to go to sleep.
When you're about to go to sleep?
Yeah. Mainly to keep me in, not really to keep me out, and keep other things out.
You chain yourself up magically.
Yeah, basically.
Just without the physical chains. They're more magical chains.
Basically, yeah.
And is that practical, or is that just a kink or a fetish of yours? You like to be magically bound, surrender to your sleep?
No, I just like to be held in. I'm just worried that one day I'll go to sleep and I just decide not to come back to my body.
Well, nowadays they keep it for you, don't they, in storage and such. They have whole hospital wings dedicated to the sleepy people.
I suppose.
Assuming someone finds you, of course. Which I'm presuming they will, and you won't starve yourself to death. Who knows? We shall see. But anyway, so Jesus has never appeared to you on the toilet like he did with his genitals.
No.
I mean, Gentiles.
No, I kind of avoid Jesus. I'm not very good with folk saints in general, really.
Are you referring to Jesus as a folk saint?
Yes.
You're about to upset a few people, no doubt. Our good Christian friends will no doubt be scared. Will be offended by that.
That's fine. So they can be. Well, ultimately, what would you call a saint? To me, a saint is a ascended individual, whereas they like to think of him as a son of God, which would mean a descent. But it's more of an ascent, isn't it? Let's face it.
I think my opinion of saints over the years has changed. I used to think of it as more of like a reward thing, like an OBE or something like that. We're just like, yes, we recognize your service and we're going to bestow the title upon you. Okay. Nowadays, I kind of see it more like influencers. So I see it more like, oh, the Catholic Church, there's some cool person or spirit or thing with a reputation. Oh, I know, we've got to sign them up to represent our brand. So they're now an official saint or an unofficial saint of the church, kind of like a Kardashian or something doing a deal. I think they kind of get claimed, because there's a lot of people that don't want to spirits and such that understand, much like in private equity. You've got a little small startup business. You can do a certain amount with your life savings and you can grow. But sometimes when someone drops a couple of 100 million down, big things can happen. And with the Catholic Church coming along, picking up these little spirits and people and such with a good reputation, they think, I could invest in you, but just know that I own the majority of your shares, i.e. you're my bitch now.
Okay. So are you making a distinction between a prophet and a saint? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm thinking that in terms of like when I said my opinion of saints has changed. It used to be more like progressing within an organization. Oh, look, we're giving you, a golden watch or something like that because you've worked
corner office
for 5 years. It's like, oh, you are the person which everyone should be looking up to as a prime example of what you're supposed to be like working for the company, i.e. Catholic Church. Nowadays is more like, well, actually, employees come and go. We are very much into 0 hours contracts and seasonal workers. So it's like realistically, no one stays there 25 years. So instead, we've just got to get whoever's got the latest kind of following, and we'll just brand them Catholic in the middle of their forehead. Make it official by being a saint, which basically means, look, we'll give you a certain amount of power, but remember, you're ours at the end of the day, under the umbrella.
Obviously, I'm talking about the good old-fashioned ones, the ones that have been around for a long time. You're talking about modern saints.
I'm talking about old-fashioned ones, but now I'm also talking about modern ones. Modern ones are more like the Instagram influencers and such, and the older ones are more like the old-fashioned, you drunk the Kool-Aid, I'm a company boy or girl type thing. You know, I sacrificed myself. Joan of Arc. Is she a saint? I'm pretty sure she's a saint, and she should be. Saint Joan. I've never heard her referred to as Saint Joan.
Well, you don't, because you're normally specifying Joan of Arc over other Saint Joans. But I'm pretty sure she was martyred.
Yeah, she was a martyr. Yeah, she's declared one of the patron saints of France. I don't know if that really counts, though, does it? For multiple reasons.
Wow.
Tonight's
theme, guys, is xenophobia.
Yes. Well, if you're going to be some sort of phobe, then you better get the one which pays the most in terms of Scrabble points, yes? That's what makes sense to me.
Okay.
So
you want that X?
Someone needs to offering me up a better phobe or ist or whatever it is to be. Whatever gets me the most Scrabble points is what I'm after, all right, people? Okay. So, how much? We've got less than 10 minutes left. So, are we going to talk about anything other than toilets? Are you going to bestow some magical knowledge? Are you going to give someone an epiphany, Chris?
Well, I would hope that every episode that we do gives somebody an epiphany. That's kind of the whole point.
That is the case. That there are people that listen to this, and they are in awe. There are some people that watch that Feisty Witches show that we do, and they're in awe in a whole different sense. But I like to think that it is less shock factor on here and more about we've actually made someone think about something.
Well, at the very least, they'll have thought about what their classification of spirit is when it comes between prophet and saint. But we'll see. The other part of it is obviously the litter box. Not to go back to toilet specifically, but kind of cats. Because that's what's cool on Instagram these days. Cat pictures.
I'm all about the pugs.
Oh no!
Oh, they're so
squashy
sweet.
Little noses with their snuffling because they can't breathe. No,
they're quite funny. Oh,
hate it.
Pugs and huskies.
Oh, huskies.
Those are on my Instagram. I don't have any other animals on there, although I do like to follow the. I like the fishes. Those aquariums that they make, like. Oh, there used to be this thing called Tanked, I think it was, where they'd make really crazy ass aquariums. They turn like a slot machine into an aquarium or make an aquarium bed or a car or something like that.
Okay.
That's amazing. I could follow that sort of stuff on the Instagram.
So it would be a cat epiphany. So what would a cat epiphany be?
I don't know. A cat meme?
No. Cats know too much. That's the problem.
Something catty? We can do catty.
You are always catty, Liam. That's never a problem.
So what will be covered in terms of epiphany then? So moment of sudden and great revelation or realization. So a litterbox epiphany, you're talking about having an epiphany on the toilet. But what about just a really crap epiphany? What about one where you've realised, wait
You've
a minute,
wasted 10 years.
when the house burnt down because we went on holiday and someone let the toaster on, we all shouted at each other and said, it wasn't us. But now I've just had the sudden realisation that when we went to ℍ𝕠𝕝𝕤 and the house burnt down, it was me. It was me. An epiphany, a rather shit one, because it don't get me anywhere. In fact, it just makes me feel kind of bad about myself. But would that be a Litterbox epiphany? Maybe an epiphany you don't want to have?
Like the realization that you've spent 10 years with somebody and now you don't need them anymore. Or you should have left them 9 years ago.
Are you getting that as an epiphany?
No, but did it scare you for a second?
It kind of did make me think someone's been reading my personal diary.
Right.
I don't know. I think Litterbox Epiphany is an epiphany that's somewhat crap. So would that be, because we have people that come to us with great realizations and stuff, and we kind of think, yeah, try a little harder next time. Well done. Well, it's something they've either had a realization or they've gone through something and they kind of it's mucked up their paradigm and been such an eye-opener experience for them, and you kind of think, yes, a day in the life of me on a slow day. You kind of think, yeah, that's not really very impressive, but it's sweet that it means a lot to you. I'm sure you get a lot of clients like that, don't you? Certainly at psychic fairs.
Definitely at psychic fairs, especially when they've kind of done I find when people have done magic for the first time, one of those, when they've had their first kind of positive response to a spell, you know, even the little ones, like, you know, when they're mundane seeking magic and they do their first lottery spell or something and they end up with you know, winning on a scratcher after, you know, making a little charm bag or something a few days before, is such a huge thing for them. So, you know, obviously not a negative one, but one of those kind of shitty epiphanies that might change the world, I guess, slowly but surely. Yeah, I suppose you could. I don't know. I'm trying to decide if Litterbox Epiphany is more a bad thing or a good thing.
A bad thing. Litter boxes are yucky.
Yeah, but they also stop cat shitting all over your house. So to me, it's a really positive thing.
Awful and they're all yucky. It's a necessary evil, isn't it?
I suppose.
Like the patriarchy.
Now that's going to upset some people. Well done, Liam.
That's why I said it. I think they would be more upset if I denied that it was a thing, though, wouldn't they?
Oh, okay.
I don't know. We need to ask the right sort of people. I think we need to get one of those love and light lurkers on here. You know, the ones that go on protests and stuff and don't wash for weeks on end. I think we need to get one of them on, yeah, and question them about such things. That could be a brilliant episode. But anyway, that's it for this edition of the No Holds Barred Witchcraft podcast. You can tune in and listen to the extended edition of this here little podcast, if you're brave enough, that is, by paying a nominal fee, a very small amount. Is much less than the BBC license fee. And all the proceeds, get this, all the proceeds, people like the fact that proceeds go to charity, Chris, but all the proceeds go to us. I mean, come on, can you not think of a better place for your money, your hard-earned cash to go than to the fastest witches in all the land? You know? Think how many hexes for free we could perform if you guys subsidize that, which you do by supporting us on the ℍ𝕠𝕝𝕤𝕣𝕖𝕕 Witchcraft Patreon. So thanks, guys. You've broken up many a relationship. Right, we're officially on the ℍ𝕠𝕝𝕤𝕣𝕖𝕕 Witchcraft Patreon, so now we can get personal, right? Have you ever had an epiphany for this entire lifetime that you've had as Christopher Evans, the Christopher Evans, even though I know that's not your real name, but it's your public name?